Hi friend, welcome to the live study channel. Today I am going to discuss web services interview question and answer using Spring Boot project using Spring Boot platform. So let's start. My first question is, what are some important annotation which used to create REST web services? Some of important annotation which are used for creating web services are means like path, get, post, put, delete, options, right? And also procedure like in a media text XML, at the rate path param, consume, right? So there are several method are using like a path is a path is another method is a get method, post method, put method. So see it, right? Means it's a path method. This is used to set up the path URL and a class level and the method level also. But in a get post there are some annotation response to the HTTP method. Means there are some response in the HTTP method. Okay, just like the procedure means media type text.xml mode type. Okay, the procedure just like the path param use a inject value from the URL into a method parameter, right? And the @ consume defined with the MIME type will be consumed by the method. So don't worry, I will each method and each parameter annotation will be discussed in a live project. Okay, I will create soon and a project in a live project in another videos. Okay, so I will discuss each and every step. So let's move to the another question. Another question is, what are way to test REST web services? This is very simple. There are two types. Another type is a postman, a post for Firefox, poster for Firefox, postman for the Chrome browser also, and also is a poster for the browser. So there is a right means a client to REST means suppose you are creating a web services REST service. So just check the API. Means check the API. Your API is a response is a correct or not, right? That's why I'm using the post method. The generally is a popular method. Is a popular is a very popular. Yeah, there are some most important features available in a postman. So generally, I think is my personal view. If you test the REST APIs, so definitely you can move is REST web services. Oh, sorry, Postman, right? Because there's some importance in a Postman. There are some features available, like means collection your APIs, history, so many features available in Postman. Suppose and also one feature is a very important features, like suppose means you making the API is another is a customer, as a project. Okay, so directly we can connect to each other, means a developer is means a UI designer and developer is a backend developer also you connect to the each other, right? Move to the another question. Another question is, when do you need @ response status annotation in a Spring MVC? Okay, the @ response status annotation is required during error handling in Spring MVC and REST. Normally, when an error or exception is thrown at the server side, the web service the web server return a blanket HTTP status code, means 5000. Internal server error. This may be not this may be work for a human user but not a REST client. You need to send them the proper status code like 404. If the resource is not found, that is where you can use them response status annotation, which allow you to send the customer HTTP status code along with a proper error message in case of an exceptions. Means suppose I am creating the response status code, means a value in HTTP. Suppose my 500 means it's a return in the web server is a return the blanket, then status code is internal server, but it's not a 404. 404 means is file not found, means resource not found, right? Resource not found. So just create the method but the response status code and just not found just means you can create a exception is a custom exceptions, right? It's a public is a book not found exception, extend to the runtime, then you can move it, right? In order to use it, you can create a custom exception and annotate them using the response status annotation and proper HTTP status code response. Like suppose is your response is a API is response is okay, then status code is 200 means 200. When such exceptions are thrown from the controller's handler method and not handle anywhere else, then the appropriate HTTP response with the proper HTTP status code is sent to the client. For example, if you are writing a REST web services for a library that provide a book information, then you can create a response status code, create an exception that return the HTTP response code, and then status response status to create an exception that return the HTTP response code is a 404 is a file not found. When a book is not found in need of the internal server error 500, right? So create in this one, right? This file just create a custom. In the exceptions, in this exception, this is thrown the any handler method, then the HTTP error code 404 with the reason no such for book, right? Means no such a book, right? Not a such a book. We will return the client. If you are not familiar with the basic concept of a Spring Boot and Spring Security and the rest, then this is my personal suggest you go through the rest with a Spring Boot and then learn, right? Okay, move to the another question. Because if you are not learn a Spring and REST, then definitely you cannot do. Another question is, what does @request mapping annotation 2? The @request mapping annotation is used to map web requests to Spring controller method, right? You can map a request based upon HTTP method. For example, get, post. For example, get, post, and various other parameters like delete, update. If you check for example, if you are developing a RESTful web services using Spring, then you can use produce and consume property along with media type annotation to indicate that this method is only used to produce or consume JSON, right? Means it can use request mapping method and create the method is equal to request.post consume.application JSON like public book and save request body in a book and just use the variables, and then what is the return is the book. Okay, book repository dot save. Which type of save? Like a book. That's it, right? See the proper definition. Okay, this book. Another question is, what are the best practices to be followed while designing a RESTful web services? There are several, means validation, section-based authentication, no sensitive data in URL, restriction on method execution, validate malform XML or JSON through generic error messages. So there are some validation are showing as REST web services work with HTTP URL path, so it is very important to safeguard REST web services in the same manner as a website is secure, right? So just start validation. Validation means validate all input on the server. Protect your server against SQL or no SQL injection attack. Means you can secure like database, okay, and your method and your query. Then you can, I think you should validate. Another point is the session-based authentication. Session-based authentication means use session-based authentication to authenticate a user whenever a request is made to a web server's method, right? Next point is no sensitive data in URL. Means you cannot send sensitive data through the query param, right? Means never use username, password or session token in URL. Then value should be passed through the web services with the post method. Means you can send username and password and any transaction ID. So it's my suggestion, you can send in a body, right? In a body like this. You cannot send means URL, means you cannot send, you get a post. Another point is restriction on method execution. Means allow restricted use of method like get, post, delete. Get method should not be able to delete data. Another point is valid malformed XML JSON. Means check for well-formed input passed to a web service method. Another point is through the generic error message. Means a web service method should use HTTP error message like 403 to show the access prohibited, right? But there are some other indication, okay, this I will tell you. Means some other important notification when you use in a response code, just discard the previous question, means 200 is okay, right? And 201 is means created, and 202 means accept, 203 means non-authenticative information, 204 means no content, 300 means multiple choice. There are some important, I will discuss in another videos also. I have already I will discuss in another video. Okay, means 202 302 means founded. Okay, move to the another question. Another question is, what is advantage or disadvantage of statelessness? Advantage: the web service can treat each method request independently. The web service need not maintain the client previous instruction. It is simplify the application design, as the HTTP is itself a statelessness protocol. REST web services work seamlessly with the HTTP protocol. But disadvantage, what is disadvantage? The web services need to get extra information in each request, then interrupt to get the client state in case of the client interaction are to be taken care of, right? This one is care of. Okay, move to the another question. Another question is, what is the idempotence anywhere? Simply put, an operation is the idempotent if it is produced the same result when called over and over. An identical request should return an identical result when do twice 200 or 2 million times. The resource of most confusion around this concept come with the idea of identical result. However, what we accept to see it identical result in the return form of rather than in the return value also. Okay, but when a call is the issue, the response can be broken generally into two different camp, the return form and the return value. If we are used to make a GET request for resource status, then update, for instance, we might get vastly different result depending on the resource that is being inspected and the time in which we do the inspection. Regardless of that change, which is simply a change in value, we would accept the format of the result, either the package type, the way in which data is shown, the method is which it is the encrypted, to be exactly the same. While the accepted result should be identical, the value of that result can change. You can still make idempotent call to resource that change as long the resource is returned in known as structure with all node the endpoint responding correctly. Move to the another question. Another question is, why not make everything idempotent? Very most important question for the interview room. The problem is that sometime in some and some significant special case, it is desirable for both the value and the form to change. For example, post is by definition something that result in a server state change, and a change is expected form and a value. If the post was independent, everything sent and accept the web server would be already have to exit on the server in a some form to response with the same code and value response. For that, the region post can't be independent or safe. It is defined that very purpose of the verb raised, the method itself hanging upon both changing resource and changing response following each request means there may be appear to be an exception to this rule with delete but open further instructions we can see that it is truly is independent while delete remove something from the server that is simply the change in value whether or not item exists or not. Also, the response how it is the same an error code that are either say the item exists or does not means and whether or not it was deleted. No matter what function is done with the delete, it should result in the same name response even if the value itself defined. Thus we can see that the event something that appeared to be non-idempotent can itself be the idempotent, solidifying the importance of truly grasping this conceptual definition. Move to the another question. Another question is, can you use the REST without any web container? The answer is yes. RESTlet framework provide default server which can be used to handle service requests in a web container is not available. Question number 10. Differentiate between SOA and a web service. SOA is a design and architecture to implement other service. SOA can be easily implemented using various protocols such as HTTP, HTTPS, JMS, JMTP, RMI, IIOP, RPC. While web service itself is an implemented technology, in fact, one can implement SOA using the web service. Another question is difference between @path variable and @request param in a Spring. The @request param is used to abstract query parameter, while @path variable is used to abstract data right from the URI. @request param is more useful on a traditional web application where data is mostly passed in the query abtainment, while @path variable is more suitable for RESTful web service where URL contain value like HTTP localhost, localhost, and you can pass like this one. Here data which the SIBN number is a part of the URI. Another difference is @request param annotation can specify default value if a request parameter is not present or imported by using a default variable attribute provided the required attribute is false. Another difference is Spring MVC allow you can use the multiple @path variable annotation in the same method provided no more than one argument has been same pattern. Another question is @get mapping and @post mapping in a Spring Boot. @get mapping is a specialized version of that means @request mapping annotation that act as a shortcut for the @request mapping means in a method is equal to request method dot get and request mapping annotated method handle the HTTP and get request matched with the given URI expression. Just see that means at the rate post mapping is a specialized version of at the rate request mapping annotation that act as a shortcut for the at the rate request mapping, and the method is equal to request method dot post dot at the rate post mapping annotated method handle the HTTP post request matched with the given URL expression. Right. In a example means in a example in an example means at the rate get, right, example is at the rate get mapping is equal to in using the home and public string home in initial is a model and then return the home. Another is at the rate guest mapping means slash member and using the ID means a public string get members model means argument use the model, okay, and then return the member. In a post in a spinning at the rate post example is the post mapping is a specialized version of request mapping annotation that act as the shortcut for the this one, okay. And for example post member is at the rate post mapping means is a path is equal to as a forward slash in a inverted comma forward slash member and consume is equal to in a inverted comma application slash JSON and produce is equal to same application slash JSON. You can use the public void add member and the request body member and then use the various code. Another question is at the rate post mapping versus at the rate request mapping means there are some point means the first point is as noted above the at the rate post mapping annotation is one specialized version of at the rate request mapping annotation which is handle HTTP post request. Another point is at the rate post mapping act as a shortcut for at the rate request mapping means method is equal to method request method dot post. Another passing URL information is the same in a both annotation. In a post mapping in a Java means at the rate target is equal to java.long annotation.elements type methods, okay. And you can at the rate retention means retention policy dot runtime at the rate documented and the request mapping means method is equal to request method dot post and public and using the at the rate interface post mapping and write the code. And let's see the difference between post and request annotation means with the first point is means request mapping means value is equal to employees and method what do you want method means the request method dot post, okay, in a post mapping and the request at the rate post mapping means employee, right. There are difference between them. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe this video. So thank you so much.